The Fest Chronicles we on. The Fest Chronicles, it's time to go. And it's that podcast hosted by Jeffrey Jones. The best in travel adventure. You go, you tell them we sent you. The activities, we the ones trotting the globe. Everything that's going on, bringing it right to your home.
Every year in the late winter, something remarkable happens along the Texas Gulf Coast. Tens of thousands of migrating birds funnel southward, but among them are a handful of the most iconic and endangered birds on the continent, the majestic whooping cranes. For nearly 30 years, the coastal town of Port Aransas has celebrated their return with a 4-day celebration of nature, conservation, and community. From guided birding and boat tours to photography workshops and talks with experts, the Whooping Crane Festival invites people from across the country to witness these rare giants in their only natural wintering habitat. Today we're diving into the heart of that festival with Joan Garland, who helps bring it all to life. Before we get started, we want to extend a special thank you to wildlife videographer Jeff Hodges for generously allowing us to share his beautiful footage with our audience. We encourage you to check out his YouTube channel, Jeff's Wildlife Adventures, where you can experience even more incredible wildlife moments up close. We'll have the link in the video.
Let me ask you this. If you can give the audience kind of a background of your involvement with the festival and how you got involved with it.
Oh, sure. Well, I got involved several years ago coordinating the Whooping Crane Festival. I actually used to work with Whooping Cranes, an organization called the International Crane Foundation, which is located in Wisconsin. And I had the joy of being able to work with these birds down here on their wintering grounds in Texas. So got to know this area of Texas very well and kind of fell in love with the community and found out about this festival that was started back in 1996. The Port Aransas Tourism Bureau and Chamber of Commerce started this festival to celebrate the annual return of whooping cranes to their wintering grounds. So I made the transfer from the cold, snowy northern Wisconsin down here to Texas and started working with the festival. So that's kind of how I got involved in it. And as I mentioned, the festival has now been going on for close to 30 years. This is our 29th year. It would have been our 30th year, but of course we had to take a break during COVID. So this is the 29th Whooping Crane Festival. And yeah, that's kind of a little history, again, of how I got started and how the festival was down here in Port Aransas.
So going into a festival, what made Port Aransas, or who were the people behind starting the festival, and why did they decide to start it?
Sure. The festival was initially started here by the president of the Chamber of Commerce at the time, a woman by the name of Ann Vaughn. And she worked with at the time, the president of the International Crane Foundation, a man by the name of George Archibald. And the two of them recognized the importance of these birds coming to this area, the Texas Coastal Bend, and thought it would be a great opportunity to introduce people from across the country to this area, and then, of course, to the beauty of the cranes that are down here. So it started. Port Aransas is a beach community. So we are mainly a summer destination. We have a lot of beach vacationers that come during the summertime, but the cranes are just down here during the wintertime. So it is an excellent opportunity to get visitors to come here to Port Aransas during the winter months. And of course, this is the time when they have the opportunity to see the whooping cranes up close. It is really an incredible experience to be able to see the whooping cranes here because you can get quite close. We have boats that will go out to see the whooping cranes on their retreat destination. And the cranes, over time, they have acclimated essentially to the presence of boats. So you can get quite close to viewing the cranes. It's an incredible photography opportunity as well for photographers. So this is it is probably the best viewing location for whooping cranes in North America.
For the listeners who may not be familiar, what makes the whooping crane one of the most, in your opinion, extraordinary birds? Why do you find it extraordinary, and what would the visitors, why would they find it extraordinary?
Sure. Well, the whooping crane today it is still an endangered species. And in fact, it is one of the most endangered birds on the planet. Right now, there's just a little over close to about 550 or so whooping cranes left in North America. They are solely found in North America. And the really remarkable thing about them is how they have their population is slowly recovering, and this is mainly due in part to the Endangered Species Act of 1973. The whooping crane was actually one of the species that the Endangered Species Act was geared towards. The cranes had recovered from a low of just 16 birds, so they literally came about as close to extinction as a population can get. So in the 1940s, the population that we have down here in Texas numbered just 16 individual birds. So it's really remarkable to be able to see an endangered species that is recovering, especially today in this day and age. We hear so many sort of, sad stories of species on the decline, and whooping crane is one of these iconic species that is slowly on the incline, on the increase. And that, as I mentioned, is in large part due to the Endangered Species Act, and then to recovery efforts that numerous organizations are taking place, trying to recover this population of whooping cranes. So for people to be able to see this endangered species here in North America on their wintering grounds and their natural habitat is really an incredible experience. And when the birds are down here, many times they'll have their young, we call them juveniles or colts, with them, and so you can see family groups of birds interacting together. It'll be the male and the female, and their chick with them, and you can distinguish the chicks because they still have brown on their heads compared to the white of the whooping cranes. So to see this population having recovered from 16 birds now to over 500 is pretty remarkable. And I think that's why people come and travel down here to the Texas Gulf Coast to be able to have a chance to see this iconic species.
Joan, that really puts things in perspective because, I was researching about migration of birds, and it mentioned, tens of thousands of birds make their way down to Texas. But when you just said did I hear you correctly? You said 550 birds?
Yes. Let me.
The whooping crane?
Yeah. Let me double check that number. I can tell you the exact or close to the exact number here. Yes. It's about, 557. So about 550.
Now, I'm going to kind of go backwards here in the conversation because you brought up some interesting points that I want to touch on. Let me ask you this. What made the birds, what caused their extinction, and, what was the cause of it? What, were they hunted, or what was the reason?
Sure. So the whooping crane, what caused their population to decline so dramatically and reach that low of 16 birds, it was due in part to a couple things. One was loss of habitat. The birds are very wetland dependent birds. They build their nests in wetlands. This is where they find their food source. It's where they roost or sleep in the evenings. And it's also where they winter. So as settlers were moving across North America and a lot of the wetlands were being drained, the loss of habitat was one of the reasons for the birds' decline. So essentially they're wintering, migration, summering, nesting areas were all starting to disappear. That was one reason. And then also unregulated hunting. Back before the Migratory Bird Treaty Act was passed and the Endangered Species Act were passed, it was not illegal to shoot whooping cranes. So the birds are very tall. In fact, they are North America's tallest bird. They stand about 5 feet tall, and they're bright white. So they are a very easy target on the vast prairies of North America, standing obviously, 5 feet tall, bright white. So hunting during that time also played a role. And the cranes are not like many birds that people will see, like geese and ducks, where you'll see a bunch of little ones behind them. Whooping cranes will generally just raise one chick a year. Sometimes they lay 2 eggs. Sometimes they can raise both of those chicks, but many times you'll just see them with one chick. So they have a very low reproductive rate as well. So, a loss of just one bird can make a huge difference. So hunting and habitat loss were the 2 main reasons for their decline before the passage of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Endangered Species Act.
Okay, that's really interesting. I really appreciate you explaining that to the audience, but it just really, hones in as to why this festival and why what you guys are doing down there in that Port Aransas area is so special. But now we take it back to the migration. Can you paint a picture for the audience? Like, what is this migratory journey like? I assume it starts from North America, but somewhere I saw like Minnesota area or close to that area down to Port Aransas. What is that like when they're traveling with the young? Are there places that they stop? How long does it take?
Sure. Their migration is pretty remarkable. And in fact, one of the speakers that we're going to be having at this year's festival, Michael Forsberg, is a photographer, and he has actually documented their migration. And it's an incredible talk. So you can actually see kind of from like a bird's eye view of the bird's migration. So the birds nest in way northern, the Northwest Territories of Canada, a place called Wood Buffalo National Park. And Wood Buffalo National Park is gigantic. I believe it's around like 5 times the size of Yellowstone, just to kind of put it in perspective. And Wood Buffalo National Park was originally set aside for the protection of the wood bison. And it happens to be the last nesting area of the wild whooping crane population. So the birds, to kind of take you on their migration, the birds arrive in Wood Buffalo in the spring, generally around April-ish. And this is where they nest. A pair of whooping cranes will mate for life, and they generally pair up when they're about 3-5 years of age, and they will go back to the same exact territory, nesting territory in Canada every year. And so they will they'll build their nests. It takes about a month for that little chick to hatch. So usually Mayish, early June, somewhere in there, the chick hatches. And then it will spend the summer up in Wood Buffalo growing. They have to grow very, very quickly. The chick, when they hatch, is probably about the size of your hand. And by the time that fall rolls around, that chick is going to be 5 feet tall. They're going to be the same size as their parents. So those chicks grow about an inch a day. So they are spending most of the summer just eating pretty much everything they can find up there in Canada. In the fall, generally about September is when they will begin their migration down to Texas. And it takes them approximately like 4 to 6 weeks to make the journey down here. They fly across Canada, much of Saskatchewan, and then through the prairie states of North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and then into Texas here. And along their migration route, they do have, there are some wildlife refuges, some protected areas that the birds will generally stop in, parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Saskatchewan. But then they will also just find, areas they can safely roost at night. So flooded cornfields, sandbars along rivers. The birds need to sleep in standing up in water. That's how they are protected from predators approaching. The cranes don't perch or roost in trees. So they're not like herons and egrets and other birds that you'll see in trees. Cranes physically cannot perch in trees. So the safety of a body of water is what they need at night. And they don't fly at night. They just fly during the daytime. And then they will find a safe place to spend the evening. And then they'll continue on the next day. So they'll generally arrive down here in the Texas Gulf Coast, usually about end of October. I always tell people they arrive on a scary day around Halloween, and then they leave on an equally scary day, which is Tax Day, middle of April.
As you're painting the picture for us, I was sitting here thinking, man, these birds really mimic human life. I mean, I was just thinking, like, they travel during the day, they stop somewhere to rest, their hotel, whichever, like, their cornfields, flooded cornfields, or, wetlands that they feel safe in. And I was just thinking, like, the humor of kids traveling, are we there yet? And you just wonder for that bird who's making that first journey, what it, is going through his mind, or his or her mind.
Exactly. Yep. And yeah, it's funny because you said that too, because that chittick, that first journey that they make with their parents, that is when they're going to learn that migration route. So that first fall migration down here to Texas is how they learn the route. And then from that point forward, they're able to migrate, on their own. They learn that route during that very first fall trip south with their parents.
When the birds, how many birds arrive at once? Do they come in waves, or do you just wake up one morning and they're all there on the sandbar or the wetlands? Or, paint that picture for me.
Sure. Well, and first off, I should back up the cranes. The bulk of them are at the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, which is north of the town of Port Aransas on the Texas Gulf Coast. So most of those 550 birds are going to be there at the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. We are very lucky here in Port Aransas. We do have a pair, sometimes two pairs that have actually come to one of our nature preserved birding sites here in Port Aransas, which is cool. And so when they arrive, they will arrive in family groups, essentially. So whooping cranes are also unique from other birds. Like you'll see flocks and flocks of geese and flocks of like sandhill cranes, which is the other crane species we've had here in North America, all migrating together. Cranes will migrate in just sort of small family groups. So you'll see, just a pair or maybe a pair with their chick. You may see a few unpaired cranes. Cranes pair up when they're about 3 to 5. So up until that time, you may see like a group of 5 to 8 or 9, cranes, young cranes that'll be together, but they're small groups. They're not like these big flocks of birds that you'll often see migrating. So they start arriving. A lot of times the younger birds, the unpaired birds, or the pairs without chicks will arrive first. Again, that's just kind of a generalization, but for the most part, that we kind of tend to see that. And then the ones, of course, with the chicks making that journey for the first time, they'll arrive a little bit kind of later. But they'll start arriving, like I said, about October, and then through through the month of November, the bulk of them really start arriving. So here now, this time of year, December, we have pretty much most of the population is down here. And that is why we have the festival in the middle of February, because we're guaranteed that, all the birds are going to be down here at that point by February. It's kind of right in the middle of their wintering period.
Can you tell me what a typical day looks like for the birds at the Aransas Refuge? Am I saying that name right? Aransas Wildlife Refuge?
The Aransas National Wildlife Refuge.
Gotcha. What does a typical day look like for the whooping crane?
So the birds, let's see, a typical day would be, they roost all along the refuge. There are these little shallow wetland areas. And so the cranes will return to that. They find their territory within the wildlife refuge, and they'll return to that territory year after year. Essentially, it's their winter home. And so they will sweep in these little wetlands. They'll spend an evening sleeping, standing up in these wetlands. So as the sun comes up, the birds will wake up. And as they wake up, the first thing, of course, they're going to start doing is eating. And the cranes, while they're down here, their primary diet and their favorite food source are blue crabs. We have a lot of blue crabs down here on the Texas Gulf Coast. And so a adult whooping crane can eat, oh my gosh, I want to say it was close to, like 50 or so blue crabs in a day, small blue crabs in a day. So they will look through all these little wetland areas here on the wildlife refuge for blue crabs. It's a brackish water, essentially, that we have here, mix of salt and fresh water. And so they'll spend most of their day eating, looking for food. If they have a juvenile with them, the juvenile at this stage is also, they're eating on their own. If mom or dad happen to come across a very, very large blue crab, sometimes you will see them, help kind of break that blue crab up, present parts of it to their young. But otherwise, the juvenile is out there eating with them. If another pair were to come into their territory, some of the really cool behaviors that people could look for while they're down here watching the whooping cranes, they'll do territorial threat displays. So they'll do all kinds of, they'll open up their wings. They have incredibly impressive wingspans of 7 to 8 feet. They'll open up their impressive wings. They'll make these very loud bugling calls. You can hear whooping crane calls up to about 2 miles away. Their trachea is about 5 feet long, so they have very loud calls. So you can listen for all kinds of cool threat calls, these different displays that they'll do with their wings. And so that's if another pair or a group of other crane would come into the territory, we'll scare them off. And then other than that, they pretty much spend their day eating, cleaning themselves. They may fly their territory. They may fly from one little wetland area over to another wetland area within their territory. The cranes will also go upland. The wildlife refuge has some nice upland areas where they do prescribed birding throughout the year, which exposes like acorns and insects, different food for the cranes. So they may fly a little bit into the upland areas to look for food. Cranes are omnivores, so while they're down here, they'll eat blue crabs, acorns, berries. They love a little fruit called a wolfberry, which is found down here in the wetlands, and fish, of course, of all kinds, snakes, you name it. And then come a sunset, they will settle in and settle in for the night and go back to sleep.
I'm going to ask you one more question before we get into the nuts and bolts of the festival. But what would you say is one of the most surprising facts about the whooping crane that people weren't aware of before they come to the festival, but after they leave, they're totally shocked to find out?
Well, I think a lot of people are very surprised to see just how large they are. They are North America's tallest bird. So they stand 5 feet tall. And as I mentioned, they have about a 7 to 8 foot wingspan. So, I think a lot of people are thinking of them more along the lines of like great blue herons and egrets and birds like that. And they are quite a bit larger than that. So people are always very, surprised to see just how big these birds are.
Yeah, not just the 7 to 8 foot wingspan and 5 feet tall. And you say they get 5 feet tall in how fast do they grow? I know you said it earlier.
Yeah, the chicks grow about an inch a day. Because if you can imagine, of course, the Northwest Territories of Canada, they have an extremely short summer up there. And so when those chicks hatch, they have a very small window before they have to start their fall migration down here. So they grow about an inch a day.
It's an inch a day. That is truly, truly amazing. So Now we're going into the festival, and if you could share the website where people can go and get information about the festival.
Oh, sure. Yep. So the festival, it's Whooping Crane Festival. And you can just type in Whooping Crane Festival. And it'll pop up the Whooping Crane Festival 2026. And that is ours. Just the Whooping Crane Festival, and click on that, and it'll take you to our the website, and that's where you can buy tickets. We'll have all the information that you need as far as our speakers, our workshops, our tours, you name it.
Okay, so that leads into my next question. The festival's mission of education and conservation, how is that reflected in the programming this year? Can you give us a couple? I mean, I'm sure everybody you invite, they're good at what they do in regards to the whooping crane, but would you say, hey, when you come here, you make sure you definitely attend this event? Are there some on your radar?
Well, of course, while they're down here, they're going to want to go out and see the whooping cranes. So I would definitely say, of course, go on a whooping crane boat trip, so that you can go and see the whooping cranes while you're here. The festival, we have a lot of events going on as far as birding events. So down here we have the shorebird population down here is just fantastic. So there's a lot of, when you go out to see the whooping cranes, you'll be able to see many other species of birds, shorebirds. We have down here our city bird is the roseate spoonbill, which is a beautiful pink bird. We also happen to have in the town of Port Aransas an actual flamingo, which we believe was blown during one of the hurricanes off the Yucatan Peninsula. So we actually have a flamingo here as well. But there's just an incredible amount of birding opportunities down here. So we have the boats, of course, to go see the whooping cranes, but then we also have, if you've already taken your whooping crane boat tour and you just want to take kind of a local boat trip, we have some local boats that will take you out into the bays, as you can see, shorebirds. Of course, there's a number of dolphins. We have lots of dolphins here. Sea turtles, which you can see as well from a lot of the jetties that we have here, and but definitely the whooping cranes would be the highlight. Then we also have part of our festival that we're really proud of are our speakers. We try and bring in speakers from across North America that are really working on whooping crane conservation. So we have a number of speakers from some of the captive areas where they're breeding whooping cranes. We have speakers from areas where they are reintroducing whooping crane populations. So in addition to the birds that come down here to Texas, there are a couple of reintroduced populations. One of them is in the eastern U.S. between Wisconsin and some of the southeastern states. And then there's also a reintroduced population in Louisiana as well. So we bring in speakers from some of these reintroduced populations, captive breeding, basically a lot of the world's experts on cranes. We bring here to our festival. So I think our speaker sessions are something that we're very proud of. Just the quality of speakers that we have that come every year. And then of course we have a number of workshops. We bring in a lot of photographers. So people are interested in perfecting their photography skills. We have a lot of workshops on photography. We have workshops on birding. If you are new to birding, or even if you're an experienced birder and want to learn more, we have birding workshops and field trips. And again, the guides that we have, our bird guides, are also fantastic. We have Texas has an incredible array, over 400 and some species of birds that come through every year. And so a lot of our bird guides are folks that have been down here their whole lives and have really honed their skills on birding. And then we also have, if people want to take a little bit of break from birding, we have some painting classes where people, it's called Wine and Design, where people can paint. We have glasses of wine. We also have a couple candle making classes. So we try and really have a wide variety of events to suit most people's preferences.
Let me ask you this. What is it that you think drives the interest of the bird? And obviously, the component of Port Aransas being a beach town, but what do you think do you see the interest in the whooping crane increasing?
Yes, I think so. Every year we seem to the numbers of folks that come to the Whooping Crane Festival it increases each year, but not to a level where there's too many people, where you're on a tour and you're just shoulder to shoulder. I think what I'm seeing is that the interest is really spreading kind of across the country. When we take surveys of where people are from, we've had people from pretty much every state. Last year, I think there was around 35 states represented. We also have a number of international visitors as well. This year, one of our speakers is coming from France. He's going to be talking about the cranes that they have over there. So we're also trying to kind of widen, not just talking about specifically whooping cranes, but some other species of cranes as well, and birds, of course. So I think the interest has really grown in this bird, and not just whooping cranes, but in conservation in general. Doesn't stand a chance if the younger generation isn't interested in it as well.
What would you say the impact? What is the impact of the festival on the local economy and the community identity?
Sure. We really try and like I said, this is a very small community, and it's primarily a summer beach destination. So by having the festival here during what we call kind of our off season or shoulder season, really does help the local economy. So we generally get around 2,000 people or so that come to the festival. And so, most of those folks, of course, are staying in our local lodging establishments. We had an incredible food scene here in our coastal town. If people love seafood, we've got a lot to offer. So, people are, of course, going out into the restaurants, our local shops and boutiques, and they're shopping. So it really does help our local economy here during our off season. And then also the festival itself, many of the proceeds from the festival, we donate back to some of these conservation groups. So some of the organizations that we have coming to speak, like the International Crane Foundation, some of our local nature preserves, the Wildlife Refuge, we give proceeds from the festival back to some of these conservation organizations. So when people come, they pay the price to go out on a whooping crane boat tour, part of the money from that is going back to whooping crane conservation and to help the birds. So that's another part of this festival that I absolutely love, is that we're actually, helping this population of whooping cranes, helping the local nature preserves, helping the habitat of youth birds meet. And then also at the same time, with the people coming in the off season, our local community here at Port Aransas, we're also, helping to support during the off season.
I especially love festivals that give back either to the community or whatever the passion of that festival is. And so it looks like the Port Aransas Whooping Crane Festival does that. Let me ask you this. Circling back, you briefly mentioned children. Let's say someone wants to bring their kids to this festival. The educational component of the festival, how would you say, as it is expanded to reach kids, and how so?
Right now we work with our local elementary and junior high here. So Port Aransas, the school district here. So I go in, and a lot of what I've been telling you here about, I'll go into the local schools and try and raise awareness and excitement with the kids that we have here to get them excited about the festival. Many of them don't really even, realize that we have these birds like right here. I mean, they can pretty much get on their bike and go down the street and go to the nature preserve here and see the pair of whooping cranes that we have here. So trying to involve, exactly, our local schools, local kids. We have a fantastic nature preserve here in Port Aransas, and they do a lot of programs throughout the year with kids, our Parks and Rec department. So trying to involve some of those programs and some of those kids into the festival as well.
Great. And, Joan, we live in changing times, and I'm curious as to how do you think the festival has influenced, I'll just say Texans, because you're in Texas, I'm in Texas, but people worldwide who come to visit, how do you think has influenced their view on conservation?
I like to think, and I hope that that they realize, because a lot of what we are hearing, of course, in the news today is not very conservation focused or conservation friendly. So I like to think and hope that the festival is showing that that no, I mean this resource that we have, this natural resource, the wildlife refuge and the estuaries that we have are vital, not just to these large white birds, but to our local fishing economy. This is where all of the fish spawn. That supports our fishing economy, our oyster economy. Same thing. So I like to think that the festival and the importance that we place on the habitat and the habitat protection really shows how it reaches everything. It reaches not just birders, but many industries that we rely on down here on the Gulf Coast of Texas. So I hope a lot of folks, that we see that come down for the festival are from places, the Midwest and places like that where they don't have oysters and they don't, necessarily understand the role that coastal estuaries play in some of these economies that we have, like fishing and oysters and whatnot. So I think we do talk about that on a lot of these tours as well. As I think people get educated about that and they can see that we do care about this vital resource that we have here on the coast.
Right. That sounds really cool. And the work that you're doing is really, really amazing. Let me ask you this, Joan. When you think about the effort, for someone who doesn't know, I worked in the festival industry for a little bit, but you have it just seems like it's just a monumental task. Can you explain to somebody who's not familiar with it what goes into putting on a festival like this?
Sure. There's a lot of moving parts and it's just a matter of keeping track and keeping organized of all those moving parts. So, and small things can make a difference. The center where we have the Whooping Crane Festival, our civic center is undergoing a major renovation, which is going to make it an incredible place to host this. So, but it's a little, right now it's still under renovation, but it should be ready in time for the festival. But just in case, we have backup facilities where we'll be having many of the vendors and things like that happening. So basically what goes into it is just a lot of coordination, coordinating and communication, making sure that, everybody, that you've spoken with everybody that you need to, that you've secured all the venues, signage, T-shirts, you name it. We have a small but very dedicated team here at the Tourism Bureau. So we all work really well. Everybody sort of has a task that they're helping with to pull off this festival. And then, of course, our community partners as well. We have a lot of our lodging partners help to give rooms for our speakers. So we really couldn't do it without the support of our community. We have numerous sponsors, which we are so grateful for. We have a lot of the zoos here in Texas, San Antonio Zoo, the Houston Zoo, the Dallas Zoo, are sponsors of this festival. We have local community partners helping to sponsor. AEP of Texas are what keeps the lights on. So it's just a lot of different partners, sponsors, teamwork that just goes into it. And it's kind of like planning a wedding, all the little various details. And then once the day comes, it all seems to fall together. So
you told me earlier, you mentioned earlier, that's almost 30 years. What would you say if the festival founders could see it in 2026, what do you think would make them most proud of this festival?
I think obviously that we're still going strong. That 30 years later, this festival went through, as every festival went through COVID, of course. But then we also went through a major hurricane here in 2017. Hurricane Harvey hit the little coastal town here of Port Aransas pretty hard. About 90% of all the businesses and homes in Port Aransas were affected by that hurricane. So we've come through COVID, a hurricane, and the festival's still growing strong. And people have been supportive of the festival, through both of those and going on. So I think the founders of the festival and George Archibald was one of the ones who started the festival. He returns to the festival every year. He is one of our speakers this year. So I know he's always he's always really excited to come down to this festival. So I think it's just it says a lot that we're still going 30 years strong, and they're growing, and a lot of new interest from across the country, and then across age groups as well.
Yes. That says a lot about the people involved and the passion that they have behind the whooping crane, and the conservation efforts all throughout that area for it to be going 30 years strong. And, I can just hear the passion in your voice and talking about that. So that's really good to hear. My final question, I'll wrap it up this way. For someone who's going to take the journey to visit the Whooping Crane Festival in Port Aransas, Texas this year, what moment or views tend to make them, or people who have come there, fall in love with the place and fall in love with the festival?
Oh, good question. I think if somebody has never been to Port Aransas and never been to the Whooping Crane Festival, Port Aransas in itself is just it's the reason I moved here. It's a great little gem here on the Texas Gulf Coast. We don't have a lot of high rises. It's small towns. We have a lot of incredible local restaurants. It's a lot of small business owners. So as far as the supporting local, shopping local, the town itself, you can get around the whole town by a golf cart. So when you arrive here, you can pretty much leave your car and you can get around by a golf cart. We have the natural offerings that we have here. The beach, of course, is fantastic. We have 18 miles of beach, which you can walk, bike, drive on. So the beach, of course, is, one of the big draws, but then we also have just these incredible natural areas. On the backside of the area, backside of the Iowas, we have alligators. As I mentioned, we have a flamingo, we have spoonbills, we have dolphins galore, sea turtles. We have a facility here that rehabilitates sea turtles, called the Ark. So there's so much to do and so much to see in this little town, but it's not one of these, communities that has lots and lots of high rises and congestion and traffic and everything. It's very laid back. People are very friendly. And as I mentioned, the food is great, but shopping's fantastic. So the town itself is a lot of fun to explore. And then, of course, the festival being able to see the whooping cranes, being able to see a lot of the wildlife I was talking about, and then the incredible speakers, trick leaders, and workshops that we have all right here in this little town during the festival. So I think it's just it's a great mix. If you want to just chill and hang out on the beach, you can do that. And if you want to go here to world-renowned whooping crane experts, you can go do that. So,
Miss Garland, Joan, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us here on the Fest Chronicles. And if someone is not able to make it this year, they say, well, I can't make it this year, I would love to support it. Do you have any favorite ways that they can support your festival?
oh boy, that is a good question. Yes, if they'd like to support it, they can go and again, the website is whoopingcranefestival.org. And we, well, my email should be on there. And so they could email me. There's also a get involved page. And they can click on that. But yeah, if they really kind of want to get involved or learn more, yes, just go on there. My email is on there. Shoot me an email and we can find ways that if they want to support it, or specifically if they want to give to a certain organization or something like that, I can get them in touch, with a lot of these, the groups that we work with, involved in crane conservation.
Awesome. But with that, folks, we'll close. Make sure you visit the website, and we'll post it on the video link to this podcast to make sure everybody gets to see it. Sounds like an amazing festival. I wish you another 30 years of festivals, and hopefully I certainly learned something from this podcast, and it just really brings into view the delicate balance that we have with our whole ecosystem and life on this planet, not to take it for granted. But, I think 550 birds, they sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, you're like, wow, only 550. We really have to preserve that. So I think this festival goes a long way into getting people to appreciate that fact. So again, thank you for joining us, and everybody make it out to the Whooping Crane Festival. If not this year, make plans for it next year. We'll keep your website posted on our podcast.
Great. And thank you so much, Jeffrey. Thank you for this podcast. I think it's incredible. So
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We want to send a heartfelt thank you to our guest today, Joan Garland, for sharing the story, the passion, and the purpose behind the 2026 Whooping Crane Festival in Port Aransas, Texas. And to you, our listeners, thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Fest Chronicles, where we celebrate the people and places that bring festivals to life. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe to the Fest Chronicles on YouTube, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Every subscriber helps us share these incredible festival stories with a wider audience. And stay tuned. Our next episode takes us to another unforgettable festival with its own rich traditions and behind-the-scenes stories. Until then, we are the Fest Chronicles. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next festival.